translating? Who speaks English? Can you translate for him? Thank you. She will. That's right. Women take over. This is no girl friend. Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. African American friend who's opened this Pan American library. That's why when she told her about Marcus, she told her about Marcus Garvey yesterday. He saw it fit that it doesn't matter how busy he is, that it's something very beneficial that he should come and be a part of. Yes. Yes, thank you very much.
This is Alcaro Lingo Garbo. He is the best Alcaro on Canada. Get up to the door. Okay. Y'all all ready? Y'all can hear me?
Yes.
Y'all enjoying Marcus Garvey Day? I'm so glad everybody is here. Are you excited to be here?
Yes.
Are you excited to be here?
Yes.
Okay, who think they came the furthest? Who came the furthest? Anybody from Miami? No? Anybody from Saracunda? Oh, we got a couple people from Saracunda. Anybody from Bergen and Saracunda? Yeah. Oh, they came to Bergen. We appreciate you all coming out. Where did you come from? Manchester. Oh, okay. One of our elders in the building. All right. I'm just going to be up here for probably about 10 to 12 minutes. And I'm going to just share with you all who Marcus Garvey is, right? So many of us do not know who he is, so we just want to understand why we're here today to talk about the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, okay? Marcus Garvey is the greatest Pan-African to ever live. There are some that may disagree. Some of you may even disagree, but since I have a wife and this is Marcus Garvey Day, I will proselytize this truth that Marcus Garvey is the greatest Pan-African to ever live. Marcus Messiah Garvey was a master organizer and orator. He was born on August 17th, today, in 1887 in St. Anne's Bay in northern Jamaica. He spent most of his life, like other Africans in the diaspora, under colonial rule and subject to systemic oppression. But he had a keen interest in the books that belonged to his father, that his father willed to him. He left school at the age of 14, and in 1906 he moved to Kingston. which is in southern Jamaica. That may sound a little bit more familiar to many of us than St. Anne's Bay, but he moved to Kingston when he was after 14, when he quit school. There he worked at a printing press. After 2 years on the job, he began his lifelong fight for justice by organizing a workers' strike for higher wages. Between 1910 and 1914, Garvey traveled all around Central America, South America, and then he went to England. Anybody here from England? Only Miss Jalika from England? Samba, okay, I know we got some folks in here from England now. So he went on to England. There he studied law, and he studied some other things, philosophy. And on his travels, one of the things he discovered was that Jamaica wasn't unique. African people all over the globe, everywhere he went, they were downtrodden and they were oppressed. Everywhere he went. During his time in London, Garvey became close with the Sudanese Egyptian activist and scholar, Dusay Muhammad Ali. No stranger to the printing press, Garvey began to work with Ali in 1912 on his already established publication, The African Times and Orient Review. They covered issues in the Caribbean, the West Africa, South Africa, the United States, as well as Ali's native Egypt. In October 1913, Garvey contributed his first article to the African Times and Orient Review, advocating for Pan-African nationalism. The publication became a forum for African intellectuals and activists from around the world. Garvey credited much of his early development of Pan-African philosophies to the mentorship of Dusay Muhammad Ali. At the British Library, Garvey discovered the autobiography of Booker T. Washington. Anybody know what that autobiography is titled? Anybody know what Booker T. Washington's autobiography is titled? Up from slavery. Okay. Washington's ideals that African Americans needed to develop themselves and demonstrate to white folks that they ought to have equal rights in America, it appealed to Garvey. Garvey is quoted to have said, and it's up there on the wall, if you turn around and see it, it's on the wall. Garvey is quoted to have said, I read Up from Slavery, and then my dream, if I may so call it, of being a race leader dawned. Armed with the experiences of his travels and the ideals of Booker T. Washington, Garvey returned to Jamaica in 1914 and immediately founded the Universal Negro Improvement and Conservation Association and the African Communities League, known as the UNIA. The forerunning goal of the UNIA was to build a black governed nation in Africa. Okay, but why was that significant in 1914? A black, self-governed nation in Africa. Anybody know? Why was that important? Why was that a big deal in 1914? This is my youngest boy. Move out the way. Can anybody tell me why that was significant in 1914? A black, governed, self-governed nation in Africa? Why do you think that was significant?
Because the U.S. was mostly ruled by white government.
Say it again, the U.S.?
It's mostly ruled by white people.
For sure. And if the U.S. was governed by white folks in America, what was going on in Africa at the time in 1914?
Ethiopia.
Right, so in 1914, Garvey was espousing a free and independent nation, free from European rule, free from Portuguese rule, free from French rule, right? So it would be another 40 plus years before Ghana would become the first African nation to gain its independence from colonial rule. So sadly in Africa, self-reliant and self-governed had long been forgotten. In 1914, when Garvey was espousing a black, free state on the continent of Africa, Britain, Portugal, France, they all had their colonial foots on the neck of the whole of Africa. In 1916, Garvey traveled to the United States of America. Yes, I said the United States of of America. He went there and he started chapters of the UNIA in Harlem, New York. And the UNIA spread like wildfire.
Yes.
And before Garvey knew it, Black Moses, as he was affectionately and appropriately called, had established over 700 chapters in the United States and Canada by 1921, and over 1,000 chapters worldwide. Black Moses boasted a following of 2 million members. Again, I gotta ask y'all, why was that important? In 1921, why was that significant that he was able to establish over 1,000 chapters of the UNIA worldwide? Come on, somebody guess. Why was that significant? Why was that word mentioned? Say that again. True? She said slavery hadn't been abolished yet. Well, the continent was still under colonial rule. Why was that significant that in 1921 he was able to establish over 1,000 chapters and gather 2 million Black folks together on unity, on one accord? Anybody? Say that again. There were no Black political parties, we still don't have one today.
Exactly.
We lacking and slacking, y'all. That ain't even in the speech book. We lacking and slacking. In 1921, there was no social media. There was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no WhatsApp, there was no Twitter, there was no Snapchat. None of that existed in 1921. I even consulted the internet because I wanted to be sure of the history of the telephone, okay? The telephone in 1920 was prevalent in about 1/3 of American homes. Only 1/3 of American homes had a telephone. Still quite rare, although the telephone was invented in the late 1870s. Being that Black people were on the bottom of the economic ladder, I think we can safely assume that probably about 90% of the remaining 2/3 who did not have telephones at home were actually Black people. Because the telephone was a luxury item, right? Now everybody has a phone, children have phones, but the telephone was a luxury item in 1921. You need to move. This reminds me of my old church days when you see your mom used to be singing in the choir, and you can still get beat in the choir. You gotta tell your children to move out the way. Okay, so without phones or social media, Garvey was able to galvanize and unify 2 million Black people towards self-sufficiency and upward mobility. Okay? That's significant. That's significant. It is hard for us today to get 2 million people rallied behind us, and we do have social media free. Everybody has it at their fingertips. But he was able to accomplish that at a time when none of those things existed. Right? So in the words of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, let's say it together. Forward forever, backward never. Forward forever, backward never. Garvey, an impressive and electrifying public speaker, gave speeches across America, urging Americans of African descent to be proud members of their race, and he encouraged them to return to Africa, to their ancestral homeland, and use their talents and their resources to create a great nation there.
Return to Africa. Go ahead.
By that time, we had already spent about 400 years making America great. It was time that we make a great nation here.
Right.
This idea became known as the Back to Africa movement and attracted thousands of supporters in the diaspora, as well as inspired African nationalists who took up Garveyism's cry, Africa for the Africans. We said it in the beginning, let's say it again. Africa for the Africans. Africa for the Africans.
Africa for the Africans.
Okay. Garveyites were strong believers in creating their own spaces with Black-owned businesses and establishments, which was an important tool for true freedom. Come on, raise your Black fist again if you're a Garveyite.
Yeah.
I gotta believe that at least half of us in the building are Garveyites if we're here, right?
Yep.
From the platform of Liberty Halls worldwide, Garvey spoke of a new Negro, proud to be Black, and self-government. Using his printing and journalism background, Garvey started the Negro World, the official newspaper of the UNIA. There he espoused his ideals for a new black man and a new Africa, and shipped it all over the world for black people to read. Can you imagine following a man that you had never met, that you had never seen on TV, you never saw on Instagram, you never saw on Facebook? All they did was send you a piece of paper in the mail and say, join our movement. That's one of the things I love about living here is there is no mail. I hate getting mail in the United States. Can you imagine that the only way that you had possible, the only means that you had, the only resource you had to spread your message was by U.S. postal mail? Today, most of us would never get the message. We'd be left in the dust while the world was going on. But he spread his message via the U.S. Postal Service, via his newspaper. Okay? All over the world for black people to read. In 1920, Garvey created the red, black, and the green flag. This flag is for all African people, not just Africans in the diaspora, America, Britain, and the Caribbean, but Africans globally identified by one flag for all African people. Later came the Black Star Shipping Line. Yes, the UNIA owns ships. The UNIA owns ships, encouraging their followers to develop themselves into an industrial and commercial people. A chain of businesses, grocery stores, restaurants, laundromats, hotels, printing press. They even owned a doll manufacturer because Garvey thought it was very important that black girls had black dolls.
I know that's right. I know that's right. The image. That's right.
That's right. Give it up for Mama G in the building. Mama G for family excellence. Remember, we're still only in the 1920s with just 1/3 of Americans with access to television and no social media. So this is an amazing feat that we're talking about. In 1928, Garvey presided over the first international UNIA convention with delegates representing 25 countries. The convention ended with the parade of 50,000 black people proceeding through the streets of Harlem, New York. And Garvey was wearing his striking, flamboyant military regalia, for which he is very commonly known for today.
Yes.
Through the UNIA, the Garvey family developed a great spiritual, cultural, and political movement inspired by the ideal of community pride, economic empowerment, self-respect, and an affirmation of African heritage. Unfortunately, which is too often the case with many of our organizations, Garvey and the UNIA were infiltrated under prejudice and perjury, and he was imprisoned for mental fraud. He served 2 years of the 5-year sentence, and he was later then deported back to Jamaica in 1927.
That's what they do.
Because we're going to call it what it is, it's treason. This treason caused the UNIA to lose influence and members, and soon the UNIA was just a shadow of its former self by 1940, when Marcus Garvey passed away. However, the UNIA, Garveyites, and Garveyism remain an important force for social change. In fact, up until this present day, you will find the UNIA and Garveyites actively working for the liberation of African people globally. I say it all the time. Africa will not be liberated without the diaspora. It won't happen with China. It won't happen with the Arabs. It won't happen with the Lebanese. It won't happen with nobody else.
That's right.
Africa wants to see herself liberated from neocolonialism. It will be with the aid of the diaspora.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, sister. That's right. Yes.
There has not been an organization nor a race leader to this date to rival the likes of Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. No organization dedicated to uplifting black people has enjoyed a global membership on the scale of the UNIA. The teachings of Garveyism inspired black leaders all over the world, from the Negritude intellectuals in France to the ANC Youth League in South Africa to the Imperial activists in the Caribbean, all the way to the U.S. with the Black Panthers and Dr. Huey Newton.
The Black Panthers.
But perhaps child of Garvey is Malcolm X. He's there. They're on the wall there.
Okay.
His parents were active UNIA members and would board Marcus Garvey when he was traveling through Michigan. Marcus Garvey even influenced other Pan-African leaders such as Kwame Nkrumah and Stephen Biko. Despite infiltration and treason, the UNIA is still active in 2022 and growing stronger and stronger
That's
as I
right.
stand here and speak.
Yes.
In fact, if you stick around a little bit today, you will have the opportunity to join the UNIA under the Pan-African Library of the Gambia.
All right. You knew my
Africa for Africans is what he taught us. That's why many of us are here now, living in the Gambia. Marcus Garvey gave us knowledge of self and pride in our black race. I want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Marcus Garvey. A people without the knowledge of their past history, their origin,